Marinations is TV that thinks it's radio. Marinations is a magazine under the covers. Marinations is a nutritious stew of nature, culture, and ideas. Hello and welcome to Marinations. I'm Sharon Skolnick-Bagnoli. This season, Marinations is bringing to you everyday heroes and local treasures. People whose intentionality and efforts are changing the world around them in some way. People like you. So, Bret Arenson,
yes,
we're here and we're talking about your art, and more interesting to me even than your art is your journey as an artist. So, could you please tell me what you're working on right now?
Right now, I've decided to follow two different directions. I've been working in lots of different directions, lots of explorations, and I've honed it down to two that I think are most intriguing. One's sort of an old one where I've worked on before, where there are spontaneous work done on canvases that are rectangular, sort of like a human size, shape, not necessarily size, but human shape. And they're multiples, so they look like niches, like in a Catholic church, where they would be figurines. But there's no figurines, there's just the shape of a rectangle. And with a very spontaneous delineation of lines with a certain brush that I use. And I think that's been effective. I'm also working something else that I think is very interesting, where I'm introducing into a spontaneous way of working imagery. And I'm doing this through reliefs and masks, so I work spontaneously, but through the stencils and the reliefs, images are brought into it. So that's sort of new for me, because before there was nothing necessarily recognizable in my work.
Yeah, it's like in the beginning there was the void, and it's just very biblical.
Yeah, I guess so, yeah.
And then God threw in this.
Yeah.
But do you use music or something? You had told me that you work, it's almost a dance motion, something you do as you paint.
Yeah, I don't use music. In fact, when I first started doing this, I had a rule to not use music. So if I was listening to music, I was ready to paint, I'd turn the music off, because I wanted to listen to what was going on inside my body, rather than being influenced by the music. That was like a different level of attention, which I didn't want to follow necessarily.
Do you know, as you begin a piece, what it's going to be?
I've done this spontaneous work long enough so that I know how it's going to form. It's sort of like I generate it, so it's like a crystal. So I generally know how the crystal is going to form, but I don't necessarily know exactly what it's going to look like. I'm so spontaneous, I don't even know where my arm's going to go to hit the canvas. And what I've developed is a repertoire, a vocabulary of different tools that make different kinds of marks. I've taken things from nature, store-bought things, and they all have different marks. So through that collection of different marks, I can build up an image that has a variety in it. I also have noticed there are certain levels of density that are intriguing to me. It may start off, there may be a level that's intriguing. When I keep going, that will dissipate, and then another level will come. So it keeps coming back once in a while. And how I compose is based on levels. So I do one level and do another level on top. I don't compose according to the placement on the canvas at all.
There's just something on television about new discoveries that have been made by certain kind of microscopes, or people that are using these microscopes. They've been able to take masterpieces and they go under and they find out that, oh, Leonardo really had two horses there, and one of them painted over, and it was a war, it wasn't just a skirmish, that kind of thing. They go all the way down to the drawing. And so I'm thinking, in 1,000 years from now, they'll be looking at your paintings and go, oh, he was this way, that level. But you can actually film your levels too. You can make the whole process into a piece of art too, not just the thing that people see at the end, if you wanted to.
That's a good idea. It could even be an animation of sorts. If I had a frame to put it on, I could do a few strokes, take a picture. I never thought of that. It's a good idea.
Well,
Watch
you can take it.
as it's going.
Do you ever feel that the canvas itself is limiting? I mean, what if you painted inside a cylinder or something where the edges were not the same?
Yeah, that's interesting. Someone else has suggested that to me, and I had that idea before. It's not something I've ever done. I usually paint flat, but I've painted on a wall. I've painted on a large drawing that spanned several feet, and so I would move as, spontaneously here or there. The interesting thing is my movement kind of doesn't go too high or too low, so there's generally like a river down the middle of it. And some spots on the top, some spots on the bottom, but just right about this level, there's a lot of density.
Sort of reflecting the human form of the person that's doing it.
Yeah, actually, if it's hung at the same level, it's a pretty accurate document of what I was doing. I have done some other ones that I hang up that are a little higher than me, and I paint in the same way, and the paper goes all the way down to the floor. And they reflect the same thing, most density in the middle, but some a little above and some below, and I like that for exactly the reason that you state, because it's a reflection of my presence there.
Right.
If it's hung at the same height that I painted it at.
Well, you have to stipulate that.
Yeah, that's part of it.
Well, you and I met in a dance class given by Anna Halprin.
Yes.
And so how long have you been doing dance, and do you feel like it intersects with your visual art work?
I've been doing dance since I was a little kid. I wouldn't let my schoolmates know, but I took tap dance as, I guess I was about 11 or 12, so something not to tell my friends.
Too bad you had to hide it. That's really a sad commentary on
well, that's okay.
high school culture.
It might stay, well, younger than middle school, what they say now, but maybe still might have to hide it, But I loved Fred Astaire, and I always liked dancing. And actually in high school, I actually I went to this alternative art high school called Renaissance, and one of the things, this woman would come in and teach interpretive dance to just a few students who were interested in it. So I loved that, and my parents would take us to see various dance companies, Pilobolus and other things like that. But I've never really pursued it as like a career, just something that I'm interested in, moving my body. As far as it be connected to my art, the movement is very spontaneous when I do my art. And I explored that. It first came out doing art. It was very automatic. And I could only really do this thing when I was facing my drawing table. But at some point, a few years later, I discovered I could do it away from my drawing table. So so now I do these automatic movement, you could call them dances or just experiences. And it's not a dance in the same way as my artwork is not placed. It's not a dance in that I don't preconceive it. It's a movement. And I don't know if somebody seeing it would necessarily call it a dance or not. That depends on someone's preconceived definition of what dance is.
Do you have it on your website?
I have it on a website.
Can you give that?
I'll give the website for where my art is. My art is at www.bretarenson.com. That's BRETARENSON.com. If you write me a link, I will send you. If you write me a letter, I'll send you a link to the other website. I had someone. I talked to a career counselor, and she suggested I don't show people and don't talk about what I do. Because
some more conservative bosses of some day job somewhere are not going to think it's cool, or what?
Well, specifically about galleries, they might be disturbed about what I do and what I talk and how I talk about it.
Artists are supposed to be pushing the envelope or breaking through and stuff, and it's just, when you look at the history of art, people are always, outlaws of some sort or other.
Yeah.
And yet, we have to, just to live in this culture, we have to sort of hold back, I think, sometimes.
That's sort of the dilemma with what she said, is to be accepted into a culture, to be understood, have to be at a certain level. If you go beyond it, you'll be marginalized. But you're exactly right. It's more interesting, I think, for me, and I think for a lot of artists, to go to that other level. Something that comes out of them just naturally, and it's kind of funny. I always think, you know, the artist, they work to get something that's so rarefied or so refined or so different, and then they wonder why nobody understands them. But you know, it's part of the. I think it's part of the process. It's part of the exploration.
Yeah.
But one thing I want to say about I have put videos. I've done some public presentations of me doing this dance, and I put them on another website. And I think in a way, for me personally, having them separate is kind of makes it easier for me. I don't have to tie them in. I don't have to, in that same respect that I was just talking, I don't have to make sure everyone understands or even sees it.
Right.
So I can concentrate on the movement-based work separately from the artwork, and I can show the artwork separate from the other one, and I don't necessarily have to tie them in unless you're interested.
Right. That makes sense, because I was just thinking architecture has been said to be frozen music. So I'm thinking, you know, you see the building, you experience it, but very rarely do you look at the drawings and the models. You know, it's like a very big treat to actually see how the thinking was, but often you don't need to really be able to either enjoy, appreciate, or use the result, you know.
Yeah, I think that's a lesson for me in presenting my artwork, that I felt that it was important for people to understand. But now I think maybe it's not so important. Though I still want them to understand, I still want to share with them in some way, and I have that outlet.
But you can write something at like if you're in an exhibit, you write about the process and stuff. Right?
Yeah.
Can you? We didn't rehearse this, but with your hands, can you say like, "This is me as a painter, and this is a canvas, and this is what I do"? Can you like sort of do a?
No, I can't. I'm not going to do that either.
Okay. I'm curious, because I don't know what you do. I just have heard about it. It's very intriguing, but maybe one of these days I'll get to see it.
Yeah. It's on this other website, and if anybody wants to contact me through my main website, look at my artwork, I'll be happy to share with them. But
good. Okay, that's a good screening technique.
I'm gonna yeah.
If you are worthy, you may see it. I was wondering about the titles of your pieces, because you have some very interesting titles, and I was also wondering when you know what to call something, what to call a painting, when it comes to you.
Well, some titles, most titles come afterwards, but some of them I have an idea that I'm investigating, so that I want to. So the idea is already there. Some ideas are less. You know, formalized in my mind, and just sort of a color exploration or a mark exploration. A lot of the ideas are very conceptual, and I think you may read them and may not see any connection with the painting, but I think I do, and I think a lot of artists have a certain thought process that helps them decide what to do in their work that may not always be obvious in the work as a result. But to me, that's very important.
For now, I want to say thank you very much
Thank you very
for
much,
being here, Bret Arenson, a fine artist.